So hi everyone, I'm Soham, and today I'm here to talk to you about creating impactful home screen experiences for your mobile product. Right? In case you're interested in downloading some of the slides or checking them out or connecting with us, right? That's the link that's available over there. You'll be able to check the slides, connect with us. Get all the information over there, right? We also have a Zoom room. So in case you're interested in asking us questions, we'll be taking those questions after the talk. So please feel free to use the chat. And again, super excited to do this. Yeah, super excited to talk about creating impactful home screen experiences for your mobile app. So this is part of our Building for India series. So we are doing this in collaboration with WeWork Labs this time. And Farman and I have been doing this for about 2 months now. This is our second month. Super excited about and sharing our knowledge, building upon this momentum of kind of talking about the work that we've done and see how we can enrich the ecosystem. Right? Again, thanks for the folks at WeWork Labs for partnering with us. Again, really excited to see how we can collaborate on this venture. If you're also interested in staying connected with us, right? A good way of doing that is through the newsletter. We intend to launch a couple of more episodes in the future, at least, right? So if you want to stay up to date regarding any of those episodes, if you want to get a cheat sheet of some of the stuff we're talking about, right? Maybe you have a colleague who was interested but could not attend or could not see the entire recording, right? We're also going to record this. So if you don't have time for the recording, you want to share something. So we'll share the cheat sheet, a lot of other documents on the Substack newsletter that we have. It's completely free and again without any spam. Right? So definitely sign up. It's trivius.substack.com. This is the agenda for today. I'm going to focus on building and designing great home screen experiences. Right. I'll begin by talking about why this home screen is really important. Right. I'll also talk about some of the great home screens that you will see in the wild. These are apps that you and I might have used quite a bit, but I'll talk about why is it so good and also talk about some of the home screens which are not so good and how I think we could improve on those. I'll also talk about design principles on how to create great home screens, right? I'll talk about intent, right? Different apps have different home screens, right? And they can all be great. So it depends on what kind of an app you're building, what is the intention of the app, and therefore what kind of a home screen should you approach. Talk about a couple of the other home screen design principles like showing what's possible, personalization, and so on. I'll also try to use all of this in a case study for an Agri-tech product that's available on our website as well. I'm super excited to kind of share this, right? Our journey of building this product and of transforming this hypothetical app. And finally, I'll also talk about some of the other considerations that you should have in mind when you're building great home screens, right? Like activation, alerts, brands, etc. So a little bit about myself and Farman, right? So we are both part of Trivius. I'm a founding partner at Trivius, and Farman is also a partner. Apart from that, I'm also a lead anchor mentor at Google for Startups. So I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of startups over the past 5 to 6 years, right? Helping them on various parts of their design, product, tech journey, right? So a lot of my learnings and my knowledge is from my experience with Google for Startups. And apart from that, I've also been a very avid community member in various forums. Interested in talking to me or just connecting with me on all of these topics, I'm available on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter. Happy to talk to all of you. A little bit about Trivius. So Farman, again, we'll talk about this as well. But so Trivius has been around for a while, right? We were back in 2012-13. We were working with Khosla Labs on various interesting micro ATM fintech solutions, right? Way before fintech was like a really cool thing. Since then, we have worked with a lot of other people, right? We've worked with Paradigm on edtech stuff. We've worked with Google quite a bit on various projects. We've worked with Friend, NovoPay, and IDEO, right? IDEO is the global leaders in the design field. We've had the opportunity to impact the rural scene, right? Helping women in rural India, building apps for them. We've worked with Google AI, we've worked with Bharat Agri, we've worked with Agri-tech, FinTech, EdTech, almost across various sectors, right? And a lot of my knowledge in kind of building all these different products and working with startups is what you will see in the talk today. So without further ado, let's begin with the introduction, right? Why is this home screen so important? So I've got a couple of apps over here that I'll be talking about and referencing throughout the presentation, right? So we have PhonePe, Netflix, and Swiggy on the right-hand side. Some of these apps, especially PhonePe and Swiggy, are specific to India. So if you're joining from outside of India, definitely, you can look these apps up. They're very interesting and have a lot of great things going for them. Okay? So all of us are familiar with mobile products. At least that's what I would hope. But let me reiterate by telling you why this home screen is important. We use apps every day, and therefore we definitely encounter their home screens. But I would like to talk about why the home screen is really important, right? And why you should even care. The home screen is a very key part of the acquisition activation funnel, right? What does that mean? If you get people to install your app, right, you're actually paying them or kind of running some kind of campaign or marketing or paid or organic acquisition channel. You're doing a lot of things to get the word out and getting people to install your app. What I've seen happen quite often is people install the app, but never, a lot of them never actually turn up as engaged or retained users, right? And having a good home screen can make a world of difference, right? It can change you from just being an app which is not being installed, which is being installed but not being used a lot, to something that's being used every single day by the user, right? So this is called the acquisition activation funnel. Activation is when people get what the app is all about. And a good home screen experience will just help you get the word across, right? In a very, very succinct and powerful manner. And that's why the home screen is very important. Apart from that, as you might imagine, right, the home screen is the gateway to your product. Now, if you're a startup or a bigger company, right, you have a lot of features in your app. And if the home screen doesn't showcase those features in a good way, it's of no use. Therefore, the home screen is the gateway to the entire product, all features, all functionality. We have to do a really good job talking about that on the home screen. It's also the face of your brand, right? Like brands like Netflix, Swiggy, just do such a great job branding themselves, right? In TV campaigns, in all other places, right? And if people are ultimately consuming the content, discovering content through the app, it's important to showcase the brand and all that it stands for, right on the home screen. It's very, very important. And your home screen is essentially the face of your brand as well, right? So it's a very important thing to keep in mind. And home screens are not just about like Android or iOS or mobile phones, right? Home screens are across form factors and platforms. So although you might design a home screen for a mobile phone, right? It's the same thing, right? The same kind of artifacts and the thoughts, the same patterns should also exist on the desktop, on another platform like TV or watch, right? So when you're designing the home screen, you also have to keep all these platforms and all these other paradigms in mind. And most of the times, you're not designing the home screen just for now. That is what you might think, right, very early on. But very quickly, you'll realize that you're designing for the future. Anything that you're doing is for the future. So today, like, when PhonePe launched, it might have just, money transfer features, but it had the capability of adding more features to it, right? Today, it has so many things, right? It has the ability to recharge and pay bills, even do investments, right? So many things that you can do. And a good home screen is able to accommodate changes and add functionality as time moves on, right? And a good home screen is also about designing for all personas, all groups of people. It's very inclusive, right? You're not just designing for power users. You're designing for people who might be struggling to use the app, who are not digitally savvy, or maybe have a lower literacy levels, right? Depending on your use case, the home screen is essentially going to be for everybody, right? So you have to keep also that in mind. A lot of these things that I talked about are typically ignored by a lot of startups when they design their apps, right? So I will talk about how do you keep all these things in mind and design a great home screen, right? A very impactful home screen for your product. So let me give some examples of great home screens, right? Again, these are all my personal opinions and again, based on my experience, right? So these are a couple of apps, right, in no particular order. We have Netflix, which is like a discovery and content consumption app. We have PhonePe, which is mostly a fintech transaction app. We have Myntra, right, which is in the e-commerce space. It's also a lot about discovery and transacting on the platform. Beside that, we have Swiggy, which is a food delivery app, similar to Grubhub or something like that in the US. And we also have Google Maps, right, which is a search-focused, location-based application, right? I'm sure you're familiar with that. What's unique here is that all these apps have different use cases. There are different products, right? They have different intents. You're trying to do different things. And despite that, right, like they all have great home screen experiences. In fact, the home screens don't really look alike. They look very different, but they all are really functional and help you get the job done, right? If I go back to all the previous criteria, right, I mentioned about why the home screen is important. Although the use case of these apps and the intention is very different for each app, all these apps tend to solve that problem in a very unique but powerful way, right? So what I'm trying to say over here is, good home screens don't necessarily have to look the same. It can look very different, right? A Gmail app might look very different from a Netflix app, but they all get the work done, right, based on the use case. And that is what you have to keep in mind, right? And that is what I'll try to deconstruct as a result of this session, right? Now, with that in mind, I've given you some examples. Let me also give you examples of not so great home screens, right? Again, not to diss on these apps or say they are not functional, but I feel these are apps that could be improved. And that's, I'm trying to provide some positive criticism for them. An app that I'm really familiar with and I use quite a bit is Meetup, right? Especially before the pandemic. I've been part of various Meetup communities, Bangalore Design, BLR Droid, and so on. And although the Meetup app has a very well-designed interface, I feel it falls short, right, in terms of actual functionality. Right? So if you're a user of Meetup, you're already a pro user, you have a lot of meetups that you're signed up for, right? The home screen is actually fairly functional for you. But if I'm a new user or if I'm a power user and I want to explore, I want to find out about more meetups, the default home screen, the layout as it is doesn't really help me, right? Again, these are my thoughts. Let me go through some of the sections here, right? Although again, the interface is really well designed. The navigation is there. You have the bottom navigation. You have home, explore, notifications, right? And a very important part of Meetup, in my opinion, is explore, right? But that's hidden behind a bottom navigation tab, right? So again, the interface is great, but when I open the home screen, it doesn't really do anything for me in terms of discovery of new features or telling me when the next meetup is coming up, right? Or doesn't always do a great job for that. Again, it has a great top navigation. All the things are very standard, right? It has a toolbar. It has a great central area, right? Just like you saw in Netflix and a couple of the other apps. It looks very similar. It has great content in the middle, but despite just having the right interface and the right areas for hosting all this information, it's still not as functional as it could be, right? Still doesn't tell me about the meetups which are happening locally here. It doesn't help me explore right on the screen, right? And although it's functional for me to attend a couple of meetups here, it could be done better, and that's my point, right? Great. So, I'll also talk about some features or some design principles that you can use to kind of think about how this could be made a little bit better. Okay, with that in mind, I'll give you another case study, another example of an app which could be made better. This is an Agri-tech app, right? I want everybody here to take a minute and just think about, just by looking at these three screens, right? These are essentially three screenshots from the Agri-tech app. Tell me what is the intent of the app? What is this app trying to do? Right. So take a couple of seconds and just think. Right. If you're watching this later, feel free to pause the video and just think about this. Right. What do you all think? Just like the previous app, right? It has a great bottom navigation. It has great a functional toolbar. It has a good central area for content, right? But my question to you is, it's an agri-tech product, right? Did you, just by looking at it, you get a sense of what this product is all about, right? When I look at this first widget at the top, right, it tells me that, okay, it helps other farmers communicate, probably, right? To a couple of farmers, it might look a little kiddie and a little cartoonish, but does it really convey, right, what this app is all about? Is it helping onboard users who are not familiar with the app? Is it helping convey the value proposition of the product to other people? Right? Is it showing me what's possible in the product? Right? The answer to all those questions is typically no. Right? And again, it has other sections as well. It has a section below which is about market pricing. But if I'm a farmer and I'm just looking at this, and I have an average digital literacy level, chances are that I might not get what this app is all about. Right? So if I install the app, I might not actually come back to it because I'm not getting what this app is all about. And research has proven, just like I showed in Meetup before, and in this app as well, people tend not to click on bottom navigation tabs. Very few people actually click on the second one, which is crop care or explore in Meetup. Right? So although this is, you might think you're doing a good job in kind of creating all these different cards, and it looks very similar to some of the other apps and other products I talked about, this screen is actually not great. Right? There's a lot that we can improve on this, right? And again, it gets some of these things right, and there's a lot of scope for improvement as well. Okay, so this Agri-tech app is a case study for us, and I'll kind of showcase all our design principles on this Agri-tech app and try to improve the home screen. Right? Great. So how do we take some of these apps which have tremendous potential, right? Trust me, I have attended hundreds of meetups, right? Organized over 100 meetups, attended far more than that. I'm a power user of meetups. So I know what I'm saying, right? When I talk about the meetup app and how I'm not very happy with the home screen, right? So how do we take an app like Meetup or the other Agri-tech app and transform the home screen experience, right? So we'll do this in 3 steps. Right? The first step is understanding intent. Because no two apps are the same, right? A Meetup app is very different from an Agri-tech app, very different from Google Maps or Netflix, right? So it's important to classify these apps into different categories so we can selectively strategize and implement strategies for those apps, right? For their home screens, right? So I'll kind of talk about that first. Next, I'll talk about the design principles, right? What are the design principles that you can use to kind of solve for this? And finally, I'll talk about some of the other considerations as well, right? So let's start with design principles. And design principles, the intent is the main piece, which is what I'll start with, right? So what are the design principles that you can use? It doesn't matter if you're a designer or not, right? These are just general tips and kind of ideas that you can take and create great home screen experiences, right? The first thing we'll begin with, like I mentioned, is intent, right? So I call this intent first, right? When you're designing a home screen, you have to ask yourself, right? How does your app intend to approach the problem or the solution? Okay. So essentially what I'm saying is apps are different and so are their home screens, right? And every app has its own unique problem solving approach and unique problem as well, right? So I have classified apps into 4 categories right now, just to simplify things. Okay. The first category is consume, right? These are apps which are primarily about consumption of content. Okay, so I've got 3 examples here. The first one is Google Photos, right? The main aim of Google Photos is to consume the photos we've already taken, right? And that's why I'm calling this a consumption-focused app. The intent over here is to consume content, right? There are other bits here and there that you'll be able to search photos and other things, but it's all about consumption of content. That's why if you see the home screen, right, it's designed all around that. All the photos that you've taken are arranged on the home screen, so you can consume it easily. Okay. Other examples are Kindle, right? Kindle is all about consuming the books that you've already bought, right? And that's why you see that at the very top of the home screen. Of course, there are other sections below that which helps you discover content. But more than discovery, Kindle, the first goal of the app itself is to help you consume the books you've purchased, right? And on the right hand side is Spotify, right? A lot of apps like Spotify, especially in the music domain, are about consuming the content that you own or that you have access to or you like, right? So if you see Spotify as well, right, the top couple of sections over the navigational sections are all about consuming those pieces of content, right? These are the albums that this user consumes very frequently, and that's the primary intent of Spotify. Of course, Spotify is also about discovering other content. It's mainly about consumption of content, right? And you will consume that content again and again and again, right? So the first section over here, the first kind of classification is consume. The second classification is discover. And this is very interesting, right? Because there's a very thin line of difference between discover and consume. Netflix is a great example of discovery first. What do I mean by that, right? Although you might think Netflix is about consumption of content, right? Like if you're watching Kapil Sharma, right? I'm not done yet. You're consuming that content, which is true. But if you look at the home screen and if you look at Netflix and their strategy, they never talk about consumption, right? In fact, consumption is almost automatic in Netflix, right? What do I mean by that? The Netflix app, the entire experience, their web page, the entire strategy is around discovery of content. It's all about showing, I have so much content, right? If you see the home screen, right, for most use cases, right, except the user on the third from the left, right? That user has something called my list and you're trying to consume that. But for everybody else, it's all about, this is the content that's available on Netflix. The whole idea of apps like Netflix and YouTube is about showcasing, okay, there's so much content on the platform. It's about recommendations. It's about showing what's possible. It's about discovery of content. And the entire experience, the entire home screen experience is designed around that, right? And once you find something that's interesting, you discover that consumption is almost automatic, right? Let me showcase this a little further, right? In terms of Netflix, the home screen, and as you scroll, right, you see the screen on the right hand side. It's all about discovery of content, right? Heartwarming watches, or popular in India. It's all about just scrolling, finding content that's really interesting, and then you click to just consume. Right? In fact, it's so powerful, the discovery engine, that the consumption rate, once you click on Kapil Sharma, let's say, it actually starts playing automatically. It shows you a preview. And without you even clicking on anything, even if you don't click on the play button, it starts playing back, right? So consumption ultimately is very important, but it's almost automatic, right? So in my opinion, Netflix is not about consumption. It's automatic. It's about discovery of content. So these kind of apps like Netflix, YouTube, it's primarily around recommendations and discovery, right? And this is another very important classification, right? Discovery and consume. Now, a lot of discovery apps, again, have a very strong consume element. A lot of consumption apps like Kindle also have an important discovery of books element, right? Typically, both of these work well together. But I want to talk about discovery first or consume first, right? Moving on. The next classification is about search, right? So we're talking about Google Maps here, and Google as a company is about search, right? So these kind of products are all around search, right? In fact, if you see the home screen, although the central area is about where you're located, the entire thing, the main highlighting feature of the app is the search bar at the top, right? So this app is actually search first, okay? And everything around it, the entire home screen is around search, right? In fact, they have a navigation shortcut element below the top search bar, but all they do are they are essentially shortcuts to search, right? So if you click on work or let's say hotels, right, the screen on the left opens up, which is essentially a search result, a smarter version of search results with check-in, etc. Right? If you click on attractions, it opens up the attraction search results. Similarly for restaurants and for things like metro, right? So this is how, right? Like this is a search first product. where unlike Netflix, where they're showing you so many options, right? This is not about that, right? This is about you have a specific intent. I want to find a petrol pump. You can go and search that, it'll give you that result, right? It's not about to tell you, right, there are 20 petrol pumps by default for you, right, or around you, right, which is what Netflix is trying to do, right? So the question that you have to ask yourself, what kind of a product are you, right, to be able to design a home screen is the first step, because that determines what kind of a home screen you'll design. Right? Finally, another really important classification is transaction. These products are all about transacting on a certain platform. It's not necessarily about search, discovery, or consumption. It's about transacting on a certain platform, right? So PhonePe, which is like a fintech platform in India, is a good example of this, right? It's all about transacting on the platform. Now, by transaction, I don't always mean that you have to pay somebody or something like that, right? It's about getting a job done, right? I want to recharge my phone. I want to make an investment. I want to check my bank balance. These are all independent transactions. And um, although a part of PhonePe is trying to show all the possibilities, never kind of proactively telling you these are the 1,000 things that you should do, and you can scroll and find those out. It's not about that. It's not about search as well. It's about telling you that, okay, I do these things. Do you want to do any one of them? Here, click on that, get it done. Right? There are other other products, right? Not necessarily fintech products like WhatsApp or email. Right? These are all transactional products. The home screens are designed around the transactions. Right? If you're building an RSS reader, right, the act of reading is a transactional piece, but the act of discovery of the feeds is a discovery piece. Right? So you have to keep this kind of thought process in mind when you're thinking about the product. Right? So with this, just quickly recapping, right, the entire presentation today will be around this concept of consume, discover, search, and transact. Right? And you have to constantly ask yourself, what is the intent of your app, of your product? Right? What you're trying to do. Okay, so that was the first design principle, right? Think in terms of what you're trying to do. What is the intent of your app, right? The second important design principle is showing what's possible, right? Depending on whatever your intent is, you have to show what's possible in your product, right? A great example of this is PhonePe again. Right? Although PhonePe is not about discovery of new items or things like that, it does a great job of showcasing all the things it has. It doesn't have everything, right? Like Netflix or YouTube, which is like an infinite content catalog. This is all about showing what's possible, right? So if you see the Netflix, the PhonePe home screen, it has different sections, prioritized sections, which show you what's possible in there. Right at the top, it tells you, right, money transfer, right? So you can transfer money to somebody using PhonePe. It shows what's possible. You can send it to a mobile number, to a bank UPI ID. You can check your balance. You don't have to guess all of these things, right? It's right there on the home screen. Below that, you have the wallet, right? Sometimes, apart from what people want, might also be the strategic importance of the to PhonePe, right? To kind of showcase this. Below that, again, it shows you all the possibilities in the product, right? You can recharge, pay your bills across different life cycle points, right? You can pay your credit card, you can pay your loans, you can book a cylinder, right? And all of this is prioritized for you, right? It's designed to help me save time, right? So back in the day, I used to call a helpline number, book a gas cylinder here in Bangalore. It used to take so much time, right? Now with PhonePe, I just click, right? Within about 5 to 10 seconds, I can book a cylinder without ever having to interact with the person, right? Or enter a number. So this kind of a transactional capability and showing that this is even possible, and then prioritizing it in my home screen makes my life easier as a user, right? Again, there's so many things on PhonePe, right? It shows you that you can purchase insurance, right? You can do investments, you can donate, right? You can do so many things on PhonePe, and all these possibilities are shown very, very well there, right? So that's a little bit about showing what's possible. Again, PhonePe is a great example of that. Another great design principle, very important, right, for almost any product, is about personalization, right? It's very important to make the home screen personalized to your users, right? Because Everybody has seen hundreds of home screens, right? Your home screen is not going to be different unless you personalize it, right? I give you the example of PhonePe because I book so many gas cylinders every couple of months. It personalizes the options of the home screen and makes it easier for me to do that booking. Right? Netflix is another great example of here, right? It has the concept of a profile, right? And the home screen completely changes based on the profile that you're kind of in right now, right? So this is a certain profile in Netflix in my family plan, and you can see right from the feature graphic to all the other options, right? Everything is completely again customized to this person, right? And it feels like this app is designed for me, and I can actually derive a lot of value out of it. Yeah, this is another profile, right? Another profile, none of the options are same, right? In fact, even the options of the second option, right? Watch it again is also not same, right? So Netflix does a great job of completely customizing all these options for me, right? Maybe this is the kind of person who tries to see their content again and again, right? And this is, my home screen, although it's not very accurate. I don't necessarily love deep impact, but it's on the right track, right? These are some of the things I want to see, right? I am interested in sci-fi. So again, very, very accurate in many ways. And, if there's a child profile, you can see it's completely different, right? And this is a profile that, again, it's the default profile. So a lot of the options that you see are not, again, my list or something, right? So it's again customized to people. If you're building, especially a discovery focused app, it's very important that you look at personalization very, very seriously. Right? Personalization is going to be the linchpin between somebody actually using your app and somebody not using it very effectively. Right? I'll also talk about personalization on other products. I talked about PhonePe. Also take the example of the Agri-tech product and see, even for a transactional product like an Agri-tech app where you're getting advice for a farm, right? Even that can be personalized, right? So it's not like it's only about discovery. The other really important design principles about navigation, right? You have to provide clear, focused navigation to all the key areas of your app, right? I'll give a couple of examples here. Look at Swiggy, right? Swiggy is, again, a food delivery app. It used to be a food delivery app, now it's branched into multiple disciplines, right? So although the older thought process is that navigation should be in the bottom navigation, or it should be in the toolbar or navigation drawer, right? Apps like Swiggy, I'll talk about a lot of the other apps as well, are changing that trend, right? You have bottom navigation, but the core navigation and what's possible in the app is not shown there, right? In fact, the central area over the right at the top shows you what's possible in the app. Right? The core navigation elements, right? Of course, Swiggy is all about delivery of food. It's also now about delivery of grocery, right? And this kind of a strategic shift in their thinking is not just about design. It's also about what are the product priorities, right? Like as Swiggy is growing, the newer area of focus is all about grocery, right? And that is where they're now making their margins, right? So initially, if Instamart or the grocery offering was hidden, right, somewhere, now they have prioritized it. In fact, you can see all the other options that they provide, right? Genie is another option where you can actually get stuff delivered or picked up. And they have all these other options like Gourmet, Health Hub, and stuff, right? So as they branch out into all these different business products, this home screen is able to accommodate all of this. Apart from this, right, so that is the core. At the top, you have the core navigational element, right, which showcases all the different possibilities. You also have your traditional bottom navigation, right, which has other things like food, Instamart, these are the high-level priorities. It has search as well, right? But the core navigation is right there in the center of the screen. Apart from that, we also have a Myntra, the Myntra app as a great example, right? Although most of the app is all about like the content and discovery of new things and sales, etc. It's a very clear navigational element at the top, right? Which tells you, right, if you're a man, you can go click here, find anything that you want, right? Gives you a hierarchical view of getting the content you want to get to, right? If you're a woman, you want certain things, you can go and get there. If you're buying something for a kid, you can do that, right? So again, they have this bottom navigation, but this bottom navigation is only for power users, right? Who want to explore, who want to go to studio, etc. For the masses, right, the navigation is happening at the top or at the center of the screen, and you can also see how you expect people to actually get to all these other places, right? Um, you also have the toolbar at the top where you can go to other areas like notifications, likes, etc. But that is not again used that often, right? Let's look at Netflix, which is another great app, right? Netflix, although it has like navigation at the top like this, where you can go to TV shows, movies, categories, and it has navigation at the bottom. The truth is, most people don't rely on navigation in Netflix, right? In fact, this navigation is only for power user or certain segments or personas of users, right? Netflix is all about the feed, just like YouTube, right? You will just actually scroll unless you subscribe to a specific user or content. You just scroll and find that content. That's the power of Netflix, of discovery focused apps, of recommendations, right? And in fact, in discovery focused apps, recommendations are the key, and navigation is actually second. It's all about the feed, right? You can take examples of Instagram and other apps as well, right? Let's look at search, right? In Google Maps, right, you have the search, which is very important. They have some amount of navigation, right, which helps you find items which are important to you, and I've shown this to you before. They also have some navigation at the bottom, but again, this is mainly for power users, right, or certain groups of users, not for everybody. So what I'm trying to say is the navigation is important, but you have to ask yourself, what navigation? Where do you want users to go to? Who are your users? What is your intent? And therefore, how will you get to that, right? Don't just think, okay, I want my users to navigate to 5 areas or 4 areas and just put in the bottom navigation. That's it. That will not work for you, right? And if you look at PhonePe again, right, the entire app is about navigating to all kinds of places, right? Money transfers, recharge. You have the bottom navigation, you have a top navigation, but it's not really that commonly used except for QR code. Again, a certain group of people will use this. Everybody else will just navigate throughout the page, right? So hopefully that gave you an idea of navigation, how you can use navigation to power your app. Great. So next I'll talk about 2 design principles. These are very, very important. Consistency and the grid, which talks about having a consistent layout, grid, structure to your home screen so that elements look similar and there's consistency and harmony between them. And that also leads into scalability, right? The home screen is not about what you build today. It's all about what you build for the future, right? So you should be able to handle more functionality, right? So I'll illustrate both these points by 2 popular apps, right? The first one is Myntra, right? If you see Myntra, right, like let's look at the home screen, the default home screen, and just like zoom into this, right? If you see the top navigational element over there, let's kind of zoom in over here, right? So over here, yeah. So if you look at the top navigation element, you can see that the top element, all the other elements in the screen are very well designed, right? They have a consistent layout, they have a structure to it, so it doesn't seem odd. It seems in harmony, right? Although Myntra is trying to show you so many things. You have like a sale card at the bottom, right? You have an offer below that. You have another sale card below that. It all still seems cohesive, right? Because it's designed according to a certain layout, a certain grid, and it's all very clear, right? It's designed to work really well, right? It's designed to accommodate different items of different sizes and still keep that sense of harmony, right? Apart from that, it's also about adding more features in the future, right? So tomorrow you might have a sale from Nike, right? Or there's a New Year's sale, or there's a Valentine's Day sale, right? There might be a completely different sale, and this framework is able to accommodate that, right? That's the beauty of this framework, right? So the grid structure, along with a strategy of being flexible, helps you add more and more functionality as time goes on, right? Without having to worry about it. right? And this is true in Myntra across the board, right? You can see so many different styles of cards, right? And all of this is designed. They have a certain grid structure, right? And it works really well to kind of add more and more functionality, whether it's about grooming hacks, whether it's about most loved brands, all this kind of stuff, whatever you want to showcase, right? Unbelievable deals. Everything will work well with this kind of grid structure with this thought process of being able to scale to different deals, different products in the future, right? So Myntra is like a great example. Another great example is Swiggy, right? I've talked about the navigational element, right? It's so flexible. You can add different things to it. Right? Tomorrow, if they are branching out into a new product, you can just add that out there, right? But apart from that, look at their, the entire feed design, right? You can have feeds of different things. You can give deals, right? You can have specific call outs to, specific offer that you want to showcase. You can talk about curations, right? If you want to have North Indian food or South Indian food or biryani, right? So it's so varied, right? You want to tell people about, okay, these are the 7 features that I offer, like food, Instamart, etc. I also want to talk about what best South Indian food you want to eat, right? There's so many other options. Talks about, you can play this game inside Instamart or inside Swiggy and win money, right? Or you want to showcase a product called Instamart, right? And it take up so much space because you want to tell that this is a new feature and this is our flagship bet right now. This is where our growth will happen, right? So good home screen will be able to accommodate all of this because you have the grid and you're thinking about the future constantly, right? Finally, it's also about the user, right? It's very important to focus on the user as in design, right? It's all about people and their needs and the problems you're trying to solve, right? So on the Trivius website, right, we have this product transformation page, which talks about this Agri-tech case study, right? Right from the beginning, we have a user persona called Manjunath, right, who's an ancestral farmer. We've created his persona, and this persona includes a lot of different things, right? He might struggle with technology. He's not familiar with online payments, etc., right? And along with his needs. So whenever you're actually solving for users and designing home screens, we have to keep these users in mind, right? In fact, I will talk about how you can think about the user and actually solve the Agri-tech case study that I talked about before, right? So let's actually do that, right? So this is the Agri-tech app I was talking about, right? So you actually sign up, you enter your language, your details, and come to the home screen. And this is how the home screen looks. This is something all of you were already familiar with. We've shown it to you in the past. And I was telling you, right, how this home screen is not ideal, in my opinion, right? It has so many things that you can improve on, right? And this is the home screen that I would kind of redesign the older home screen to, right? Using all the design principles that I talked about, focusing on the user. I talked about intent first, right? An Agri-tech app is about transactions. You want the farmer to come to the app and be able to improve his or her farm, right? Potato farm, tomato, whatever it is. It's a transactional product first, right? You could discover other things like pesticides, etc. later, but it's about helping you first, right? So this entire app is designed around being transactional, right? We show the user what's possible, right? And I'm telling users, right, these are the farms that you have, and you can improve those farms in this way. You will always have access to your crops, crop care, market information, just by having those tiles in the center, right? Gives you a lot of this flexibility, right? At the very top, we have this navigational element, which tells you, this farm and this app is personalized to you, right? These are your farms. This is your potato farm, tomato farm, carrot farm, right? And it shows clear navigational shortcuts to all these possibilities. And navigation is very important. You can go to all the important parts of the app, right? Very, very clearly. All these things are extremely consistent, right? We're following a grid structure. And tomorrow, if I want to add a couple of more features, I can do that. So it's scalable as well, right? And I'm again focusing on the user, and somebody like Manjunath might not be that tech savvy, so might want support. So across the board, right, I'm adding all these elements and keeping the user in mind. And finally, it's also personalized, right? So the home screen is a little bit dynamic as well, right? So when they come to the home screen, they'll see the task that they're supposed to do. It's not a generalized thing. It's because I know Manjunath has a potato farm that needs leveling very soon. And that's why I need to help Manjunath on that in November, right? And I'm focusing on the user. And across the board, right, although it's a transaction first app, there are other possibilities as well. I'm helping them discover different things. I'm helping them find out about farming news and government schemes and events, right? Discovery might happen, but that's a secondary concern for me. And it's available elsewhere in the app, right? Again, there's a market view, weather, etc. Another thing you have to keep in mind, all of these things are consistent, right? So it follows a grid structure. In fact, all these widgets, etc., are conforming to a grid, and every single time we have a widget on the home screen, for example, this grid, right? We have made a decision, right, whether to take so much space on the home screen, right? A widget could take, 6 columns, right? Whether we should take 6 columns or just be happy with 3 columns, because then I can accommodate more in the remaining 3 columns, right? So all these kind of things are also very important. Okay, so with this, hopefully I gave you an idea of how you can use the design principles, all the design principles I talked about, to transform, an app like an Agri-tech app, right? From something which looks very unclear and you don't know what it's all about, something that's not just clear about the value proposition, but helps you actually transact in a much more confident way, right? With this, right, I want to talk about some of the considerations, other considerations you have to keep in mind when you're looking at the home screen, right? These are not very, very important. These are not like principles, but you should keep in mind, right? Like some of them might be applicable to you, right? The first is activation, right? For the Agri-tech app, right? Activation is where users actually get the value proposition of your app, right? It's the light bulb moment. That's why I have the light bulb there. So people might install the app, but it might take them some time before they get what your app is all about, right? And that's why the activation experience is very important. Over here, I'm asking them, right, what crops do you grow? So that my home screen is very customized and personalized to the user by the time they reach there, right? So the home screen is very important with respect to acquisition and activation. I told about that funnel, right? And all of this is again available. This entire case study is available on trivius.com/product transformation. So you can go and check that out, right? So activation is very important. Another thing, right, again, might be useful to you is alerts and nudges, right? A lot of people design home screens, but don't think about alerts. Now, alerts and nudges can happen in various ways, right? In Swiggy, it's very interesting, right? They don't even have an option for notifications anywhere, right? If you're chatting with customer support, it comes as an overlay, but they use the remainder of the page very, very interesting, right? If you want to alert the user about the benefits of one plan or some other offer, right? They have a space at the very top, again, a very consistent grid structure-based element over there, which tells you about this, right? And alerts you that this is the benefit of the one plan. They also talk about all these other plans and different cards at the bottom, right? So top priority is telling about one, then is the core navigation, and finally it's all about the other offers, which are not that important, but there is space in the home screen for this as well. In Myntra, right, the entire home screen, right, is about alerts and nudges. It's designed to tell you about what the app, what the product is all about, right? What's available. We do have a notifications at the element at the top, but that is only for certain things, right? If you've added something to your cart, it's out of stock, or there's some issue with your refund or something like that. That's when it's used, right? So the entirety of the app is about discovery and showing you about all these possibilities and nudging you towards them. In the PhonePe app, again, they have a very standard carousel where, again, helps you navigate to certain ads or certain other sections. And they have different paradigms as well. They also have this notification items at the top. And each grid element over there, each shortcut can also have an option of a nudge, right? Or a badge to tell you that, this is something that you should do, or there's an unread notification or something, right? For that specific thing, right? So if you have a credit card bill due, it kind of shows one over there, right? So that's a little bit about alerts and nudges. Then I also talk about branding, right? Branding is very important. How do you showcase your brand on the home screen? Lots of ways of doing this, but I'll give a couple of examples. Netflix does such a great job of showcasing its logo, right? Top left, center of the page, across the board, right? Does such a great job, even the splash screen, right? Now splash screen is something that everybody does, but how Netflix kind of carries that across is interesting. Myntra has an option of showcasing the brand at the top left or in the bottom, right? Bottom navigation. So it's very uniquely in Myntra. In Google Maps, it's all about having the mapping very clear and prominent in multiple places, and showing the Google brand, the multicolor logo in multiple places, right? And this is also kind of reinforced in the Explore part. Right. One of the last things I want to talk about is about being dynamic as needed, right? I've given the example of a magazine or newspaper here, right? If a magazine had the same headlines every month, would you read it? Right? Probably not, because it's got the same thing, right? So your home screen also needs to be dynamic wherever possible, wherever needed, right? Now, again, things like PhonePe cannot be very dynamic, but wherever possible, try and do that. Right? This is especially true for discovery-based products, right? So if you see Netflix and Myntra on the right-hand side, or YouTube, right? These are all dynamic apps, and they're discovery-based apps. They have to be extremely dynamic in nature because they're recommending things to you, and there's very less navigation to go off, right? But even the central Agri-tech product, which is over here, right? Over here as well, we try to make a little more dynamic by telling you, right, this is something you have to do in the next couple of weeks. So people actually are motivated to come back to the app and check this out, right? Not just to come back to the app and there's a transaction to use. Right? Of course, Netflix, everything is dynamic, and so is everything dynamic in cloud. Right? Cool. With that, I'll quickly summarize what I've talked about. I talked about how do you create impactful home screen for your mobile product and why that's important. I talked about the different kinds of home screen that are available, right? The intent of your product and therefore the home screen. Consume, discover, search, transact. Right? I also talk about the design principle. Right? I talked about showing what's possible, about navigation, about consistency, about user focus. And finally, I'll also talk about some of the other considerations in terms of activation, not just brand presence, and being dynamic. Right? And I showed all of this with the Agri-tech app as a case study, right? And the main takeaway from this talk, right? If you don't remember anything else, it's about the intent, right? No two home screens are the same, no two apps are the same. So ask yourself, right? What is the intent of your app? Are you a consumption-based app? Your discovery app are you doing search? Are you transacting on your platform? And therefore, right, look at some of the other examples, follow these design principles. It will help you create better products and create better home screens, right? With that, I'd like to end and quick shout out for our upcoming month's talk. So this talk was about creating impactful home screen experiences. Next month, at the end of March, we will be talking about creating effective localization strategies for your mobile app, right? Where it's about localizing your app and all the things that you can do about that, right? In case you're interested in learning about that, definitely go to our Substack newsletter. You will get all the updates there, right? With that, I'd like to end. We're doing a lot of really interesting things at Trivius. Definitely check out our website. Happy to connect with all of you on my social media accounts. These slides are fully available on the link over there, Trivius/impactful onboarding. And we do a lot of really interesting things at Trivius. So we would love to talk to you about